All right, so the topic we had for our project was police.
The problems with policing are deeply rooted in the structure of racism that permeates our society and institutions, which have led to people demanding to abolish police in their communities. The article Community Leaders Speak Out for Police Reform, Not Dismantling by the Star Tribune suggests that it is critical to address racism and rebuild our infrastructure so that we can reduce our reliance on policing. Instead of abolishing police, we should reform it, as discussed in the article 5. Minneapolis City Council members, our case for changing the chapter on policing. They discussed how it is time to seize the opportunity of shedding the police system that has failed us and transform the ways we protect one another to keep each other safe.
5 Minneapolis City Council members' case for changing the charter on policing was written by Minneapolis City Council members who are eager to transform the city. The article discusses the failures of the city's policing system and mentions how many lives have been taken over the last couple of years due to policing. Issues like the rise of gun violence and racial discrimination in the city are also discussed. This has led the city council members to come up with solutions to create a safer city. One of the main solutions is the Charter Amendment. The Charter Amendment creates alternatives to armed police like traditional peace officers and social workers. This amendment would replace the charter mandated police department with a Department of Community Safety and Violence Prevention to address crime and safety issues. The council members did a great job writing this article to persuade Charter of Commission to let Minneapolis residents to vote on this amendment. Another thing the Minneapolis members did well when writing this article was using Quintilian's alternative to reason. In this article, the authors use Quintilian's alternative to reason by using three steps to a rhetorical analysis. They made a discovery of arguments by addressing right away what they wanted to talk about, which was the Charter Amendment and the overall safety of the city. They arranged their arguments about public safety, the police system, and the Charter Amendment in subtopics. Next, they put the speech's purpose near the end, which was to convince the Charter Commission to let Minneapolis residents to vote on the amendment. And lastly, they used these methods and techniques by discussing past and present events that have been caused by police failures.
So the next article was about reforming the police and not completely dismantling it. And it talked about how the policing issues were deeply rooted in like structural racism that has been around for a very long time. And they discussed how the rallies and protests were working towards defunding the police, but it shouldn't be defunded, and they should reform it and address the societal racism that there is in the police system. And they talked about how the Minneapolis Police Department, it needed to be reformed, and the chief of police is a very good person to help do that right now. They think that if he has a lot of like backing, then people will follow him and listen to what he has to say. And that Minneapolis, if they reform their police instead of completely defunding it, that we could become a model for other police officers, and they can be a model for reformation.
All right, the next article was about the trial that's upcoming for the George Floyd killing. Prosecutors explained in court that 4 former police officers should face stiffer and longer sentences if they are convicted in the May 25th killing of George Floyd. The judge, Peter Cahill, told prosecutors that he wanted additional details on the ground for what is known as upward departures in their sentences. So basically, he wants to know about the position of trust the officers held and George Floyd's vulnerability. According to prosecutor Matthew Frank, both grounds could be used as justification for longer sentences. And then even with no pre-existing meetings between the 4 former officers and Floyd, there was still a power imbalance between them because the former officers held a position of authority, especially because they were all in full uniform. And then in Frank's 5-page memo, he wrote, He states that the defendants made George Floyd feel vulnerable when they handcuffed him and pinned him to the pavement. This trial is set for March 8th, 2021. It's clear through this that the police need to reform.
George Floyd, Philando Castle, Breonna Taylor, Rayshard Brooks. These names serve stark notice that policing across the United States needs transformational reform. It is time to change the systems that have repeatedly failed us in keeping us safe and replace them with effective and sustainable approaches to public safety. Thank you.